Distance can be a major barrier to accessing quality healthcare on time. That's where Angel Flight East comes in. Welcome to Takeoff Talk with Angel Flight East, a nonprofit dedicated to providing free flights for children and adults who need medical treatment far from home. We don't know how many people forego medical care because they don't have accessible transportation, and that's what this podcast is here to change. Join passionate AFE staff members Jess Ames and Maddie Beck as they share real-life stories from people who have used AFE services to get the care they need when they need it.
Hey, frequent flyers, and welcome back with another episode of Takeoff Talk. It's me, Maddie.
And me, Jess.
And we are here today with Pilot Bob.
Hi, Bob. We're so excited to have you today. How long have you been flying with Angel Flight East?
Well, I've been flying about 7 years with Angel Flight East. I heard about you guys through the network. I actually have a friend who works for Corporate Angel Network up in White Plains, and they were saying that there are other Angel Flight type organizations. So I reached out to you guys, and it's been great.
That's awesome. And so why do you volunteer with Angel Flight? Like, what is really what drove you to be involved with public benefit flying?
Yeah, no, so that's a good question. And one of the things that I found by actually owning an airplane, I've been able to help my own family with flights for their benefit in terms of getting to specialists and things like that, and specifically the Cleveland Clinic. One of the things that I do is obviously help family, but I also felt that I needed to and I wanted to help perfect strangers with the same service. So that's why I do it. And I've seen the benefit of that firsthand just with my family. And so, they didn't think about calling me and using the plane to get to the Cleveland Clinic. I offered, and they went, "Oh, that's a great idea," instead of driving for 6.5 hours.
And isn't your son or son-in-law a physician out there?
He is. You have a very good memory, Maddie. Yes, he's a critical.
It's not always like that. Don't let her fool you.
He's a critical pulmonary care guy, senior guy with them. And so, yes, and I talked to him at length about using, the Angel Flight organizations in the Midwest and also on the East Coast here to get people out to the Cleveland Clinic. And so they're very familiar. And I think, did I talk to you, Maddie, about coordinating with the person who does coordinate those trips, or did we leave that up to the Midwest organization?
So we talked about it briefly. I don't think we went too far into it, but I love the idea.
Yeah. So there is another organization, I think out of Chicago, I'm not sure, and I can't remember their name, another Angel Flight organization. And I know you guys collaborate with these folks, which is another wonderful thing because it takes a lot of coordination. If you're going outside of the East Coast, sort of geographic area that you guys have as your sweet spot. So going down to Florida or going up to Maine, we kind of cross over with other people's Angel Flight, and same thing with going out to the Cleveland Clinic and Chicago. So.
Yeah, definitely. And I think what you said about flying complete strangers is kind of a perfect description, because a lot of times when we explain what we do, people are like, there are really pilots out there that will fly somebody they don't know to a faraway place. And it's kind of our challenge is getting over that hurdle, being like, yes, there are actually people out there that provide this service.
Right. So, Jessica, you hit the nail right on the head. And one of the things that has blown me away over flights that I've flown with you guys and others is that we will meet a perfect stranger at the FBO. And I always marvel at how brave these people are to get in an airplane with a pilot that they never flown with before and, say, hey, I'm willing to go, get my treatment or my program or whatever with a perfect stranger. So it's a perfect stranger on both ends.
Yeah.
So I put myself in their shoes going, and some of them have been little babies, right? I've thrown couples with little babies. And so here's a couple who say, hey, we're willing to take a chance on this pilot picking us up and flying us to fill in the blanks. In one case, it's for me that stands out is flying them back into BWI to Johns Hopkins from their home base. So yeah, I marvel at that, their bravery, their tenacity at a time when they're trying to get their child or themselves to a specialist or medical appointment that isn't available in their local area. So good for them. I mean, never mind us. Holy mackerel, good for them.
Yeah, definitely. And I always say our passengers have such an incredibly positive outlook on life, despite what they're going through. So then we always have to take a step back and be like, wow, our day isn't as bad as we thought it was.
Sure.
Now, any of these perfect strangers, has anyone left a bigger impact on you than another?
Yeah, Madeline, that's a good point. So one woman and her daughter, I flew from Lynchburg to BWI for appointment at Johns Hopkins. And I decided to take her daughter was 14, and I decided to take my 14-year-old grandson with me. So he's flown with me a long time. And so I told him, his name is Jack. I said, Jack, you're going to be, looking out for the passengers. So, I needed to turn around every once in a while and kind of give them a thumbs up, because we don't have headsets for the people in the back. And so, when we landed to pick them up, we introduced each other, and the girl, same age as my grandson took a lot of time with her to explain the airplane. It's a Beechcraft Bonanza. And, it's not a big airplane, but, we went around, walked around the airplane and told her what we do for safety and everything else, because he's always helped me with the pre-flight. That one sticks out because my grandson still talks about that. Still talks about another 14-year-old who is battling cancer.
I got goosebumps.
Oh.
No sweaty eyes, Jess.
Yeah, I know. We're not allowed to cry on Fridays or Mondays. We cry enough in our office. There's a lot of emotions in here today.
Do you volunteer with any other organizations?
Oh, yeah, I do PALS, patient airlift folks. And I've gone to CAN events, Corporate Angel Network events, although I don't know if you're familiar with Corporate Angel Network, but they're more of a business aircraft, not that the Bonanza isn't a business aircraft, it's a small business aircraft, but they're mostly Gulfstreams and, Cessna Citations and things like that. And it's a corporation who makes seats available for cancer patients. So I've helped them by going to their events and talking about, I used to work for NBAA, so NBAA was a big supporter. That's the National Business Aviation Association a number of years ago. So I've gotten to know those people through the National Business Aviation Association. And then later on, when I worked for Beechcraft, I was their vice president of flight operations. And I actually flew Corporate Angel Network flights for them in our demonstration aircraft and in our executive transport aircraft.
That's awesome. Wow. Yeah. We do know Corporate Angel Network. We actually refer a lot of patients to them, specifically those patients who have to go a lot farther distances. For our listeners who don't know, our general aviation fleet, really, we try to keep under 1,000 miles. And while that still could be Rhode Island down to about Florida, it's just not the same as going across the country to like Colorado or something like that. So now what made you want to become a pilot?
Well, goes back a ways. I don't know where you two were in 1969, but I was in
nobody
the military,
was even thinking about
us.
us.
I was in Vietnam, and I was riding in the back of helicopters. So in 1969, I'm riding in the back of helicopters in Vietnam, and I'm looking down at what I have to walk through, and I'm looking at the pilots in the front, and I'm going, it'd be nice to be able to fly either a helicopter or an airplane, and then go home at night and have what we used to call 3 hots and a cot. So when I got out of the military, I went back to school on the GI Bill. And in addition to getting my bachelor's degree, I also got my commercial instrument multi-instrument rating. So I've been flying for 53 years.
Wow. I hope I fly for 50 years one day.
You have to be able to land the airplane by yourself.
I know.
First, Jess.
I cannot land yet. I'm getting there. It's a slow process for me.
The key to a successful pilot, Jessica, is when you look at your logbook, the takeoffs equal the landings. That's a successful pilot.
So funny story, my dog actually ate half my logbook. So it's a little bit in pieces right now, but you can still read it.
Okay, good. Explain that to me. Yeah.
So what is your real job when you're not being a pilot for public benefit flying organizations?
Sure, yeah. So my real job, fortunately, is I actually retired from 2 aviation companies. I retired from Bombardier, and then I retired after spending 8 years with Hawker Beechcraft out in Wichita. Retirement was the vice president of flight operations for Hawker Beechcraft. So we had pilots everywhere in the U.S. and Canada, and Mexico, South America, Europe, and Asia. So that was a fun job. And my new job after retirement is flying for Angel Flight and keeping up with 8 grandkids. And
wow, 8?
Doing it, yeah. So it worked out good. And we do a lot of travel. So we've traveled all over the world since we retired 5 years ago, and we're going to be traveling this year. We're going to Europe, and then next year we're headed on a cruise of the Great Lakes, believe it or not. So that'll be fun.
Also, Bob, we cannot take away the work that you do for that local community organization that brings clothes and shoes. I don't remember the name. I need you to help me out here.
Not a problem. It's called Clothing Our Kids. And I'm sorry, I failed to mention that. Yeah, that's another charity that my wife and I are involved in. And we've supplied over, 30,000 pieces of clothing to thousands of kids in Sussex County, Delaware. And it's just a great organization. They're all volunteers. It started as a grassroots organization with a woman out of her garage and just a couple of neighbors. And now it's grown to, we're in 34 schools in Sussex County, and we have over 120 volunteers. So
wow, that's incredible.
Yep,
I always say people who are retired seem way busier than people who are currently working. So good for you.
That's why I couldn't let him not mention it.
Yeah.
And my brother gave me this very good tidbit of advice when I retired, because I told him, I said, how am I going to stay busy in retirement? I mean, I'm running around like my hair's on fire, right? I got pilots everywhere around the world. And he goes, Bob, don't worry about it. You do one purposeful thing a day and everything else will follow. So you need to wash the car, go wash the car. That's purposeful. You need to cut the grass, go cut the grass. But you do one thing every day, purposeful. That's, outside of what, getting up and having breakfast, just do that. And it's amazing how you fill your day. And it really is. And those 2 organizations, well, more than 2, but the Clothing Our Kids and the Angel Flight organizations, I have no problem filling up my time with that, plus keeping up with the maintenance and the care of the airplane. So that's a big deal for me.
Where's your favorite place to fly to now that we know that you've had pilots all over the world that you've worked with? And I'm sure you have some good stories.
Well, Geneva, Switzerland is, it's like a fairy book. It's like a movie set when you fly in there. You're surrounded by the Alps and this mountain lake of Geneva, huge lake. And it's just gorgeous. But up in Maine, we were just up in Bar Harbor for a week. We flew all over Maine, southern Maine, and up around Bar Harbor. And it was just gorgeous. We spent some time walking in Acadia National Park and things like that. So anywhere from Acadia National Park in Maine to this last winter, we took the airplane down to the Keys. And we love the Keys, not necessarily Key West because it's kind of a crazy place. And once you go once, it's maybe it's maybe it's the youngster in me, but I'm kind of over the crazy stuff that goes on Duval Street in Key West. But Isla Mirada or Marathon Key, quieter area, just gorgeous with the color of the water and everything else. It's really pretty down there. So yeah, after school starts, we're going to spend some time with the grandkids late in the summer. And then when school starts, we're headed out to Texas. And so one of the things that we did last year was we flew out to Colorado for a wedding. And again, that's God's country out there. We stopped in the Badlands, Rapid City. Oh my gosh, if you've never been there, it's well worth the Badlands stop. It's really great. So favorite of all those, and I love Hawaii. I lived in Hawaii for 7 years too. I flew cargo there for a number of years. And so, we're going back to Hawaii for Christmas this year.
Wow, you are very busy. I always say,
I'm not flying the Bonanza.
If you have an empty seat, we make great passengers.
Right. And you don't even have to bring us back. You can just leave us there.
Yeah, there you go.
If you could say anything about being a volunteer pilot, what would it be?
Wow. I think in a nutshell, Jessica, being a volunteer pilot for me is you get more than you give. I mean, just to be able to have the relationship for the short time that we do, meeting the people at the FBO, flying them where they're going, and then dropping them off. You get much more than you give. And when you do it, you'll figure out what that means.
I love that.
Yep.
I have goosebumps again. I feel like I'm going to cry.
And it's not the air conditioner this time. What is one final thought that you want to leave our listeners with?
So, I mean, if you're a pilot and you have access to an airplane and you want to do something good, try it. Try it just once even. Take a friend along or, do it by yourself. I found that I have no problem meeting people. I think a lot of people sometimes, are timid about meeting new people. But if you're a pilot and you have access to an airplane and you want to do something good where you get more than you give, then you should do this.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for your time today. We love this. This was such a great story to hear all about, and we're so excited to share it more.
Great. All right. Well, keep up the good work, ladies.
You too.
Alrighty.
Bye. Enjoy your day. Wow. It's Friday.
I love retired people. Also, do you think that we are his one meaningful thing that he did today? Or purposeful, I think was the word he used.
I think so. That'll be the first time anybody's ever said that about us, but I'll take it.
Also, when he kept talking about strangers getting in planes with strangers, I was like, we don't even give you guys a free candy sign.
That's true. And all I could think about for Key West was Fantasy Fest and all those pictures Dom showed us that I don't think I can ever recover from them. Dom, if you're listening, I know you still have those pictures.
Yeah, our old flight coordinator who retired when I came on went to Fantasy Fest for his retirement party in Key West in like August. And it was a time. There was a lot of pictures that I can't get out of my head.
Maybe I feel like we would fit in at Key West. And then I could wear like a really cool outfit. No? Okay, we'll stick to West Virginia.
Okay, thank you.
He was so sweet. I'd never actually seen him, and I don't think I've talked to him. Maybe we met him when he was flying PPE, but that was the first time I actually met him, I think.
Yeah, when I met him at the Lewis Delaware Rotary meeting. He joined me and I learned a lot about him apparently. And I'm very impressed with myself that I remembered all that stuff.
So am I. That was the biggest lie I've ever seen. I'm like, she doesn't even remember what she did yesterday.
I have no idea what I did yesterday, but I am proud.
That is just like this morning you said you were sensitive. I was like, this whole day is a lie.
I said I'm fragile. Thank you.
It's Friday. And if we weren't going to happy hour at 4, I would probably just leave you in the dust.
See you there.
Well, we are so glad you tuned in again to hear us talk about basically nothing, but also hear Rob's very inspiring story. And we hope you join us next week for another episode of Takeoff Talk.
His name's Bob.
That's what I said.
You said Rob.
No, I said Bob.
Oh, well, either way, if he wants to go by Rob or if he wants to go by Bob, we're happy that you guys were here to hear all about his story, our stories, Fantasy Fest, Key West.
Look it up. You won't be the same.
No, no, but we are so excited to see you again next Monday. Have a great day.
Bye.
That's it for today's episode of Takeoff Talk with Angel Flight East. If you want to learn more about our services, please visit our website at www.angelflighteast.org or call our office at 215-358-1900. Join us in our mission. If you're a healthcare worker or a patient in need of air travel and flight services, AFE is here for you. Subscribe to the show so you can hear more stories. Join us again next week right here on Takeoff Talk.